Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David. In this episode for UFC 284, Makhachev versus Volkanovski. First of all, I just want to say that I'm recording this in two parts, but it'll still be on the same video. I'm just recording the prelim portion first, and then with the magic of editing, as many people say, it'll have the second portion, which is the main card. So first we'll start off with our first honorable mention. So far in the night, we have no robberies, so to speak. But we almost had one. I'll explain, and it's the first thing we're talking about, the first honorable mention, which is Tukhugov? Turgov. I'm going to say Turgov. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this name. I'm really sorry. Zabara Tagura. Jesus Christ. Tukhugov. There we go. Tukhugov versus Brener. He's Portuguese, but I suppose it sounds different. This fight ended in a split D for Brener. My scorecard reads, I had it 29-28 for Brener. The first and the third round I gave to Brener. And then the second round, I obviously gave to Tukhugov. Let me read the descriptions real quick. So in that first round, Brener outstruck Tukhugov. In that first round, Tukhugov had a lot of missed shots. He was whiffing a lot. And then in the second round, Tukhugov outstruck Brener. A lot of missed shots again, but by both opponents, really. It was kind of close up until the end, up until like an ending sequence. Then it kind of gave Tukhugov that round. And then the third round, a little close again up until Brener outstruck Tukhugov. He had more strikes in the clinch. He had more strikes pretty much everywhere they went. And Tukhugov did the same thing he did in the first round, where he missed a lot of the shots. The reason why I'm reiterating he missed a lot of the shots is because if you happen to listen to the commentary and didn't listen to this on mute, you need to understand something, that no matter what MMA promotion you watch, you'll always hear the word robbery, which is fine. I love screaming robbery. That's what the show's about. All I do is whine about people getting robbed. But when people don't get robbed and the announce team go crazy, it's a little disgusting. So, example. First round happens, and they're talking as though a lot of Tughugov's shots were whiffed. It missed the target. That's the narrative of this fight, is if Tukhugov landed half, I swear to God, half of what he threw, we'd be talking about a 30-27 probably. Maybe. But that's not the case here. Instead, you have Michael Bisping, who is lost. I mean, we had this problem last week. I believe it was last week, if I can check my notes real quick. It had to have been last week, where he's dribbling at the mouth. Michael Bisping is saying nonsense. He's watching this fight, and he's going to Tukhugov outstruck him. And, it occurred to me later that these guys were, him, except for Dom. Dom seemed dead. But besides the fact that they seemed dead, Anik seemed himself, other than this fight. But what had me kind of mystified is this fight was at 7 a.m. So Bisping is on something. And I don't mean on drugs or on Adderall or on alcohol. I'm saying he's just really amped. He's amped. And given that it's 7 a.m., he just came out and was like, man, that was a robbery. This is bad, blah, 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 dribbling at the mouth. And in my head, I'm just thinking to myself, no, it wasn't a robbery. It's not a robbery. He wasn't watching the fight. In the first round, he just declares Tukhugov won because he's just throwing a bunch of shots. Tukhugov wins the second round. But again, he's missing a bunch of shots. And then in the third round, I think they all understand that Brener won that round. But still, they're all just, it's not even like they're watching. And then Dominic, who also I don't think is watching, just agrees with Bisping off the rip. He's like, yeah, I guess I got to agree with you. They're not watching. And then Anik, who's, picking plays for them, I don't know. I want to say he's probably watching more than anybody, but even he's not watching. They just seem to be kind of alarmed or just disillusioned by everything Tukhugov was throwing. So that was annoying. Listening to it was annoying. If you watched this on mute, you would have gone away with, okay, this was a close fight, but Brener won. Instead, you listen to this commentary, and even if you were listening to this commentary, you're still like, Tukhugov lost this fight. But the commentary are just, I guess they just woke. It was really disheartening to hear how they just shat on Brener's moment when he was the obvious winner. And even the crowd who, it's the prelim crowd, but it was still pretty packed. They didn't do the thing where they're kind of like, oh, he got robbed. They did the thing where it's like, okay, this is one of those like close fights. And it came down to a split D. And the commentators are going crazy over something that really they shouldn't have been going crazy over. So that's my little annoying thing. But that's all over this card. And my main gripe is with Bisping. Because Bisping seems to see something and use that as the basis for why the fight is just going. And there are some moments in this fight where he'll say it's close, and it actually is close. Moments in this card. But he's all over the place. It's annoying. And if you're sitting down watching it from an entertainment standpoint, I could see you joining in and being like, okay, cool. Brener shouldn't have won the victory, and you're just not really fully focused, blah. But if you're watching this and you're scoring this, and you're looking at everything, you're going, you do not know what you were talking about. You do not know what you're talking about. And I don't mean that from he wasn't watching. Anyways, next honorable mention, Young versus Bilder. Okay, I had this 30-27 for Bilder. In the first round, Bilder outstruck Young. He had a takedown with very little ground and pound. I mean, he was outstriking him on the feet, but once he got to the ground, he kind of just landed little, very little shots here and there. Nothing really significant, but it was obvious that he won the round. You go to the second round, he definitely outstruck Young there, and then you go to the third round. While it was a little close towards the end, he really pushed himself away, but again, it's obvious that he outstruck him. Outstruck him in all three rounds. You go to the judges' scorecards. Ben Cartledge, 30-27 on his scorecard for Bilder. Mick Manny, 30-27 for his scorecard as well. And then you go to David Letheby, who also has it 29-28 for Bilder. He gives the second round to Young. Honorable mention there. I definitely think it was obvious that Bilder outstruck him. But, there's that. Real quick, I'd probably have to go back and read the split decision scorecards real quick for the Tukhugov versus Brener fight. Derek clearly had a 29-28 for Brener. His scorecard reflects mine. Barry Foley gave the first two rounds to Tukhugov. Honorable mention there. I mean, no need for honorable mention. We already know it's the wrong scorecard, but he gives the first round to Tukhugov. Nonsense by Barry Foley. And then Evan Field had it 30-27 for Brener. I also don't like that scorecard, but again, that second round was kind of close too. I don't think it's close if you're watching it, but it's kind of close in the sense that they're both just missing shots. But there's big moments where Tukhugov is the obvious person outstriking Brener. Okay, we go to the next honorable mentions, which is Jenkins versus Shainis. Okay, I had this 30-27 for Jenkins. I put a close marker on the second round. In that first round, Jenkins outstruck Shainis. clear as day. In the second round, Shainis outstruck Jenkins, mostly in clinch positions and pretty much everywhere else, but I'll get to Jenkins in a second. Shainis had a takedown, and he had 2 reversals with some light ground and pound. Again, if you accumulate all the strikes that Shainis had, he outstruck Shainis, which is why it's a close round. But then the reason why I gave it to Jenkins is the obvious reason, which is he had the more impactful shots. He had 2 takedowns, and he definitely had the better shots. A lot of Shainis' shots were like pillowy, right? They were kind of just like rabbit punches. They weren't like heavy rabbit punches, but they were just light rabbit punches. And again, Jenkins, excuse me if I keep saying Jenkins had the better shots on the feet. And then the third round, Jenkins had 2 takedowns with ground and pound. Shainis was active on the bottom. The only problem was if he had heavier hands, this might have been scored differently. He was active on the bottom, but his strikes were just too light. On top of that, later in the round, Jenkins started to add a little heavier ground and pound. And then on the feet, once it got back to the feet after the 2 takedowns, Jenkins outstruck Shainis on the feet. During one of the ground positions, Shainis had a submission attempt, but it was really nothing. So that fight was a 30-27 on my scorecard. You go to the judges' scorecards. Okay, you go to the judges' scorecards, and it'll show Derek Clearly had a 30-27. David Letheby had a 30-27. And then Mick Manny, he gave the second round to Shainis. I'm not mad at that. I actually understand that because, again, he had a takedown. He had 2 reversals. He outstruck him pretty much. So I could get the argument that that Shainis won that second round. Next honorable mention, you have Pedro versus Bukauskas. This fight was interesting, but to get off the scorecards for a second, it seemed as though Pedro just gassed out. If you've watched many of Pedro's fights, in your head, you were probably thinking he's going in there and he's just going to dispose of Bukauskas some way or the other. In my head, I'm trying to really think about it. It looks like he gassed out, but it doesn't make any sense. It's one thing if you're like, okay, you see a fighter occasionally gas out or whatever. In this scenario, I know they lobbed up the thing that, when we see Pedro next time, it'll be part of the narrative. And when I say narrative, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, it'll just be part of the storyline of, hey, he gassed out in his last fight. Boom, boom, boom. But what I'm saying is, it's interesting because they lobbed up the scenario of, hey, most, if not all of his fights ended in the first round. But if we're just going to be real here for a second, when Pedro got in, if you look at all his first round finishes, yeah, they're quick and whatever. But if you look at this one, once he stepped in there, and he just moved. Because he's moved like that before. The moment he just moved, it's almost like they were in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was no. What's a place where it was hot and they were going crazy? Was it Shanghai? They were in a place one time, and it's hot, and there's sweat everywhere. He just instantly started to sweat. I was so confused. Maybe it was nerves. It could have been nerves. In my head, I feel like it was nerves, but that's what felt really odd. But back to the fight. I had this 30-27 for Bukauskas. I put a close mark on the second round. You can argue the second round for Pedro. The description of the fight. In that first round, Bukauskas outstruck Pedro. And Pedro had a takedown, but he did nothing with the takedown. I mean, he literally just laid on him. And then once they got up, Bukauskas continued to outstrike Pedro. So for anyone who gave Pedro that first round, that's nonsense. We do this every week. Come on. Second round, it was close on the feet. A little back and forth. They're pretty even on strikes. Up until towards the end, really. Pedro may have outstruck. The reason why I'm saying may is because it's kind of unclear in my head, but Pedro may have outstruck Bukauskas. But the reason why I gave this to Bukauskas is because if you tally up all the strikes, again, it's close on strikes. Bukauskas, his strikes were much more heavier, the more impactful strikes, a lot more intensity than when Pedro was throwing, where he was just kind of touching Bukauskas. A lot of his strikes were just touching him. It's almost like he just kind of flailed his shots out there. No impact, hence why I gave that round to Bukauskas. And then in the third round, clear as day, Bukauskas outstrikes Pedro, 30-27 on my scorecard. You go to the judges' scorecards. All right. Evan Field has a 30-27 Bukauskas. And then this is what really, I'm lost at this. When I heard 29-28, I was thinking maybe the second round. No, they gave Pedro the first round. And this is Barry Foley and Mick Meaney. I'm going to be honest here. If this was in Vegas, if this was in the United States, I don't think he gets this first round. Maybe a second round? You don't get this first round. I'm confused. They gave Pedro the first round for getting outstruck and then getting a takedown with maybe some clinch stuff, right? Because whatever. And then doing nothing but the takedown, getting up, and then boom, you have this. So Barry Foley and Mick Meaney, honorable mention of both of them. They gave the first round to Tyson Pedro. And then the last two rounds they gave to Bukauskas. So honorable mention for them. And now with the power of editing, I am back. 3 days later, dodged every single spoiler, and I can now score the main card. So let's just get into it, and then we'll talk about it. Next honorable mention is Crute versus Menifield. I had this 28-28. The first two rounds I gave to Menifield, and then the last round I gave to Crute. He had a point deduction for a fence grab, which made it go from a 10-9 to a 10-8, 28-28 majority decision. In that first round, Crute had five takedowns, but he was outstruck by Menifield, outstruck on the feet, and he was dropped. The 5 takedowns are irrelevant. I remember a while back ago I scored a fight, I think, Witt versus I think Marquez, and there was a round I scored for Witt because he just spammed takedowns. Obviously, I fixed that now. But in this particular situation, Crute did not he didn't do anything with those takedowns. I mean, he just kind of took him down. That's all. He didn't really do anything with those takedowns. Plus, he was dropped and he was outstruck. That round goes to Menifield, in my eye. You go to the second round. Menifield outstruck and dropped Crute again. Crute had a takedown with like we could call it a submission attempt, but it wasn't in any capacity. It wasn't effective. And he had little to no ground and pound. The ground and pound he gave was light. These were soft rabbit punches, almost tired, labored rabbit punches. Irrelevant. Doesn't apply to the scorecard. Shouldn't apply to the scorecard. And so that's why that round goes to Menifield. And then you go to the third round. Crute had a takedown. Essentially, Crute had a takedown with ground and pound for a big chunk of the round. Menifield had the fence grab in that round. That round goes to Crute. You go to the judges' scorecards. Ben Carlos had a 28-28. His scorecard reflects mine. David Lethaby had it 28-28. His scorecard also reflects mine. And then Derek Cleary, I'm lost. I'm confused. This is making no sense. I'm getting pissed. I hope, again, I haven't seen these cards yet. I haven't seen the judges' scorecard, so I don't know what the main event's going to look like, but we'll see in a second. He gets the first round to Menifield. He gives the second round to Jimmy Crute. This seems to be the problem tonight. Because we'll get to the main event and we'll talk about it a little extensively, but this seems to be this weird problem tonight. Overvaluing the takedown. Now, if you listen to the crowd were just ready for that, right? There are many instances in the prelims where when someone of Australian descent just didn't get taken down, it was obvious that they were like, this is the theme that needs to be there tonight. But the judges were having none of it, in the sense that this fight right here, in the second round, Crute had a takedown. Remember, this was the round where they started to get really tired. Crute had a takedown with very little ground and pound. If anything, he had no ground and pound. He was dropped in this round. He was dropped. And he got outstruck. This is insane. This is a bad scorecard. Honorable mention to Derek Cleary. This is a terrible scorecard. Nonsense. We move on to the next honorable mention, and that's Rodrigues versus Emmett. This fight ended in a submission for Rodrigues in the second round. I gave a 10-9 to Rodrigues in the first round. In that very first round, Rodrigues outstruck Emmett on the feet. Emmett had some ground and pound. There was like a slippage. There was like a knockdown sort of slippage. I'll just say it didn't look like a knockdown. It really didn't look like a knockdown, and I don't think it was. But he Rodrigues slipped basically. Emmett had like a little bit of ground and pound, not a lot of ground and pound. It was very little, very, very little. But the defining feature in this round is Rodrigues was so active. Not only did he outstrike Emmett on the feet, he was more active than Emmett was on the bottom than Emmett was on top, significantly, and hence why the round goes to him, or should go to him. You go to the judges' scorecards, and you have Garth Harriman. He gave the first round to Yair. David Lethaby gives the first round to Yair, and then Derek Cleary again gives the first round to Emmett. It's nonsense. He gets outstruck on the feet. He doesn't take him down. He gets him down somehow, right through the slippage, or a knockdown if maybe Derek Cleary saw that, and then decides, you know what, I'm gonna give you significantly less ground and pound than I'm getting that's being hit on me in that instance. So again, Derek Cleary, honorable mention. That's twice. I have a sharp feeling that we're gonna talk about this. Honorable mention to Derek Cleary. We go to the main event, the one everyone's talking about. Now, the reason why I say the one everyone's talking about is because after I scored this, I then finally, after dodging all the spoilers, saw the commentary, and we'll get to that in a second. I had this 48-47 for Volkanovski with the close marker in the fourth round. So, if we're just being real about this, you can actually score this both ways. You can score this both ways. When I heard the scorecard 49-40, what was it? 49-46. When I heard 49-46, that person should be jettisoned into the sun. There is no 49-46 on any planet. You should be suspended. 49-46 is you overestimated and even in my head when I heard 49-46, when I looked at my scorecard and I said, okay, 48-47, 48-47, I'm thinking Volk. When I hear 49-47, I think that doesn't make any sense, so we know which way this is going. That means he again inflated the importance of Makhachev's takedowns. We'll see who that is in a second. 48-47 for Volk. That's how I scored it. A close marker on the fourth round. It's a very close fight. You can argue the fourth round. We'll get to that. The first round, the first and the second I gave to Makhachev. The fourth and the fifth I gave to Volkanovski. And the third I gave to Volkanovski. We go to the rap sheet. Close on the feet. It's actually close on the feet. Makhachev drops Volkanovski in this exchange where they just kind of go ham for a short moment in time. He drops him. He doesn't drop him, but he goes to a knee. It's from a hit. He drops him. Boom. Right? And then he has a takedown. His round, for sure. Go to the second round. It's close on the feet again. You kind of give the edge to Makhachev. He's kind of landing the cleaner shots. He's outstriking him, but it's close on the feet. Then Makhachev had two takedowns. And then Volk drops Makhachev, but it's a flash drop. So it's a flash drop. Makhachev kind of recovers. It kind of reminds me of the drop when Colby got dropped by what's his name? By Masvidal. Reminds me of that drop. But anyways, he gets dropped there, goes into the takedown. Makhachev has like 1 to 2 takedowns, and it's close on the feet. That round goes to Islam. You go to the third round. Okay, Volk just he avoids getting taken down. There are moments where it's close. He's close to being taken down, but he doesn't get taken down, and he outstrikes Makhachev. Boom. For me, because I haven't looked at anyone else's scorecards yet. For me, this is the round in contention, and here's the reason why I scored it for Volkanovski. Makhachev got a takedown with when I say it would be an injustice to call this ground and pound by Makhachev. He has, and this is where the stupid fucking rule set makes no sense, because if you look at the criteria, it's a person attempting a fight-ending sequence, right? That's what messes up a lot of these rounds, because yes, he's going for submissions, but he doesn't have any in. And two, he's just holding him. At a certain point, he's just holding him. He maybe he tries two, and then he just starts to hold. But this is the moment in question, not the submissions. He starts landing shots remember, he has Volkanovski's back. He then starts to land shots while he's getting hit. So Volkanovski's outstriking him. Volkanovski is outstriking him. What happened on the feet is kind of it's not really important in that fourth round, but once it gets to the ground, Volkanovski outstrikes him. He's hitting him with the better shots. Despite having his back taken, he's hitting him with much cleaner shots. And once Islam tries to respond with shots with shots from where he's at, they're not effective. They're light little rabbit punches. He gets outstruck from that bottom position. That round, to me, because this is the moment in question, goes to Volkanovski. And then we move to the fifth round, which is clear. Volkanovski outstruck Makhachev. Mostly, it was a little close on the feet. I was kind of leaning towards Makhachev on the feet a little bit, and then, boom, the drop happens, and Volkanovski gets some ground and pound from there. Mostly body shots, but still, ground and pound. It's his round. Boom. That's where you get 48-47 to Volk on my scorecard. You go to the judges' scorecards. Ben Cartlidge gives the first two rounds to Makhachev. Okay. Gives the third round to Volk. Gives the fourth round to Makhachev. And then gives the fifth round to Volkanovski. Again, that's fine. Like I said, close mark on the fourth round. That's cool. Okay, David Letheby, his scorecard again reflects Ben Cartlidge's, where it's all the same, and then the fourth round he gives to Makhachev. So none of the judges even gave any importance to what Volkanovski was doing in that fourth round. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. That's an opinionated thing, I guess. And then this might be the worst scorecard. This is one of the worst title fight scorecards I've seen. Derek Cleary gives the first two rounds. Derek Cleary should be investigated. This is nonsense. He gives the first two rounds. To Islam Makhachev. He then gives the third round to Makhachev. That's an injustice. We don't have an injustice on the scorecard, but that's the first injustice on the scorecard. Bad. That's where we get the 49-46 because he gives the fourth round to Makhachev. Again, that's a close round. That's fine. And then he gives the last round to Volkanovski. He looked at his scorecard and said, yeah, this is it. This is it. He looked at that. And I know that's not fair because, again, it's a round-by-round thing, so you're just kind of going off the round. But I won't even lob up that suggestion because, again, like I said, it's a round-by-round thing. But there's no way he watched the third round. That's insane. That's insane. I haven't seen any of the... I've seen a little bit of the commentary so far. And this kind of reminds me of... We're in a little bit of this is a close fight. You can't really be definitive on it. But that fourth round, I just know in my head, I've scored a bunch of these at this point now. This is it. This is the round. You score that for Volkanovski. But again, there's just, if you're getting, I don't want to say out-grappled, that's not the right word. If you're just being held and nothing is, it's one thing to be held and then you're incorporating ground and pound. Then we'd just be like, oh, he lost. But it's another to just be like, no, he held you down. You were hitting him in the face. This reminds me of, I think it was Algeo versus Feely, where Feely's just holding, and Algeo, I believe it's Algeo. It might be someone else. It might either be, I mix up Algeo and Arosa. It's either Arosa or Algeo, and he's just blasting his head, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, he won this. I mean, in that case, it's a lot different because those strikes, I think, were much more cleaner than Volk's, and I mean, he outstruck him in that position heavy. I can't remember the strike total. Somewhere in like the 50s or something like that. But that's what this reminds me of. And again, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it does, and you can't, I mean, they bring 3 judges from 3 different regions. No, they don't. They bring the European judges. They bring 2 European judges and 1 American judge. And the American judge flubs it to a 49-46. The other 2 had at least closer than it should have been. And that's how you have this nonsense. That's all I want to talk about. I was 2 days away. I spent 2 days dodging spoilers. It's a good thing no one around me really watches MMA, and I can just turn off my notifications. That's what's really good. But next time I won't do this. Next time I'll take the bullet. I'll go into work with 3 hours of sleep, and score the card and go to work, and hopefully that all works out for me. Last thing before I leave, another injustice, haha, in air quotes. No translator. We just thought, okay, no Brazilian translator, cool. There's like 2 Brazilians on the card. I think maybe 1. No Spanish translator for Yair. No. Even though he speaks English, but I meant like corner wise. What was the big one? What was the big one? Oh yeah. Crap. What was the big one? I'm trying to find it. No, I think it was Yair. No translator for Yair. No translator for, who was the other one? There was a bunch. Listen. No translator is just nuts to me still. No translator. What the hell? We have a title fight. No translator. I mean, whatever, dude. Whatever. Anyways, that's all I got. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. That would greatly help. And God bless.